Below zero hits us in life. Built for the cold, you say that ain't right. Too cold for the average Joe, just right for those who hear the show. In the image of greatness you were made, but taught by the world to be played. A new generation, we're building. No victims, we're creating. Them haters, keep hating, cause Gen Zero, we blazing. Remember the story of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat from the Bible? For those of you that don't know that story or don't share my faith, that's okay. Long story short, it's kind of like the Prince of Egypt story where he was kind of like the perfect son, right? Jacob gave him this Technicolor Dreamcoat, and he, had this just amazing energy about him. And his brothers, all his 12 brothers, were envious of him, so they actually sold him into slavery, right? And then he became a slave in Egypt. And then from there, he got accused of actually having an affair with the Pharaoh's wife. So he got thrown into jail. And then he had to kind of get out of jail. And he did it by actually being prophetic in terms of interpreting people's dreams. And he ended up saving, Egypt from the famine and everything else. And his brothers came back to him in that famine, and he forgave them. Right. So I use that story because sometimes, like, and I'm not saying I'm Joseph from the Bible in that standpoint. My parents actually named me after the father of Jesus. Right. But sometimes I relate my life a lot. There's a reason why I felt like I heard that story so much as a kid, because what I'm going to talk about today is fairly morbid. I'm going to talk about all the different experiences that I've had, that I've seen death, experienced almost near death experiences, lost family members to suicide, to cancer, a lot of different things. And yet still through all of it, didn't I just never blame God. I was mad, but I knew it wasn't from him. There was a reason for it. I want to teach you today the systems that I learned of how to deal with things emotionally, things that I wish I had dealt better on. Right? There was a very dark period of my life in my early 20s, late teens that I'm going to share today. I'm even kind of nervous sharing this because I just remember all the emotions and they start to pour back, and I'm being very, very vulnerable today with a lot of things that I experienced. But before I get into the topic of death today, I do want to share my journey, right? So I was what you call consider like, hey, a good Catholic boy. Like I never partied, I never drank. I had dated girls, but I never had the intent to sleep with them or anything. And that was all the way through like college and my young adult years. Just never got involved in that scene. I think fitness actually helped me avoid a lot of it because I just wanted to be very healthy. But I remember being a good Catholic boy and I would always serve at church. And my exposure to death was pretty early because I was an altar boy for like all these funerals. So I would literally hear eulogies every single week. I would see, all these families grieving the death of one of their loved ones. And I was like, man, this is tough. This is hard. Not only to realize over the next 10 years, I would be experiencing a lot of that personally. Okay. But before, I never believed in sharing all these struggles before until there was like victory on the other end, right? Like I got through it. You never share your struggle because then it's just, you're kind of seeking attention and you're almost like seeking pity. Like you use it to serve people by actually succeeding through it and overcoming it. And then share your story. Okay. So this is my journey from 2007 to 2012, just to give you an idea of the type of things that I overcame and what I was able to accomplish while all this was going on. So I'm going to paint my story a little bit as far as like what I was able to do from 2007 all the way until now, and then share with you over the next probably 8, 9, 10 episodes as I go through all these different D's that I've experienced. Today is on death, right? How I was able to do it, regardless of what was happening around me. So while I was in high school, right, 2007 to 2012, by my senior year, right, I went from basically a no-name athlete at a very top high school in Portland, Oregon. To give you an idea of their program, right, our senior year, we won 10 state championships at the highest level, 6A. I'd say over the last 10 years, this high school, Jesuit Portland, has been ranked the number one high school sports program in the country, probably a couple times in the last 10 years. So it's a very high caliber. Like a lot of my peers, some went on to play in the NBA. My track teammate played in the NFL, right? And they're all great people. Like absolutely love them. But it was a very high caliber athletic school. So to finish in the top 8 in the Portland metro area in the 400-meter race and run 3 events in varsity my senior year, right? On top of finishing my high school career as a class salutatorian, I had one A minus. Uh, that one A minus. It was in English, junior English. I got a 92.7, and we don't have weighted grades at that school. So some schools have like weighted grades and you can have over a 4 point. Whether I got fives on my AP math classes and all that kind of stuff, but that wasn't weighted, so it didn't contribute anything. It was like either you got an A or you didn't. So I had one A minus, and I also that year qualified on the tenor sax for an international band conference. So I was kind of doing a lot of things. I was doing sports, I was doing grades and academics, I was doing music, and on top of that, I was also kind of chosen as a leader to lead different clubs, from our diversity club to many of our Jesuit retreats that we had. I was one of the main leaders on quite a bit of those. And even the awards that we'd win every year, I tended to rack up a couple awards every single year, whether it was in like, PE or whether it was in, history class of all things, just really sometimes random, but I would get these different awards, right? And everyone's kind of looking at me like, geez, Joe, like how many of those you got this year? That was just kind of what I was used to because I just wanted to win. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to do well in everything that I did. My parents taught me well. There was one award at graduation, right? That's a very special award where our school, our senior class votes on one man and one woman who they feel would drop everything to like serve them, be there for them, help them, do anything they could to make sure everyone in the class was okay. I was the guy. And then my really, really good friend Garme, she ended up running track at Stanford, just to give you like an idea of the caliber of people I was around, right? They voted us. And it was really cool. So I leave high school realizing all these things that I've done. I also get into Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The program I got into, right, typically has on average about 1,000 applicants a year. They accept 14 of them. I was one of them. Of those 14, two get selected to have the internship to work with the kind of like, what do you want to call coveted internship, working with the men's basketball team, their main revenue producing sport. I was one of the two, and I actually didn't do it. And I'll share why. That's a different story. But I'm just sharing with you all this stuff. This isn't to brag. This is to share with you. I've been kind of doing the right things. Like I feel like Joseph from the Bible, like I'm doing the right things. I'm doing well in school. I have good grades, like all that type of stuff. Like why God has all this started to happen to me. You're going to hear that throughout the next few episodes. Okay. So that's through 2012. Now, 2012 to 2020 was my character building years. 8 years in like sales, network marketing, very minimal results, working crazy hours. Like I would literally, not even kidding, probably put about 40, 50 hours into my sales job at the time, then put about another 40 to 50 hours into building my network marketing business and still holding on to the relationship with my girlfriend I had at the time. And it was just it was a lot of character building years. I'm not going to touch too much on this right now. There's going to be more of this coming, but just to give you an idea, it's kind of like everyone sees like what I'm doing now with seventh level and training and with working with Jeremy closely and doing all these things and podcasts, traveling to LA. A lot of people see that, but they don't understand the character that was built in the quiet for about 8 years with not really much results to show. Now, from 2020 to 2024 was where I finally started to see some financial success, some career success, some business success, right? I would say from my late 20s to early 30s, cumulatively, I was able to kind of over those couple year span, make 1 million in personal income. Okay. From a business perspective, I built 3 different books of commercial truck insurance business, right? My first book in 2 years, I built to 7 million in premium. My second book, I would say I helped scale a book from about 15 million to 25 million. To this day, that book at the company is still the largest book of business in the entire company. They're probably they're a mid 9 figure agency right now. And then my third I just finished. I almost got to about 5 million in 1 year while also managing and training an office of 30 to 40 sales reps. Okay. I'm also been the seventh level cold call coach for the last couple years. Seventh level is actually a top 10 global sales training company. I get paid to go speak for them at all their events. I get flown around the country to train companies in person. Just a couple weeks ago, I trained almost a 10-figure business that's just kind of just what I've been able to do now because of the platforms that I have, and I'm very, very grateful for, right? In the meantime, I also probably have become in the best shape I've ever been in my life. Now, I'm going to go into a whole disease section in a couple episodes of things that I have faced doing all this, and you guys are going to be like, how is that possible? I think just a big part of it is the God. God has a reason here, but I've maintained around a 10 to 12% body fat for the last 21 years or so. I've always fortunately been able to see my abs. That's not to brag. I've never missed. I've never missed. We're at like 252 plus consecutive months and counting of never missing the gym and being on a health regimen. So that's just what I've done. And I've gotten to a level where a lot of the weights that I lift, like I'm like 163 right now, probably, max bench at least like 335. So just to give you an idea, it's not to brag. That's to be like, look, I put in the work. I've been doing it for a very long time, right? Everyone sees overnight success. No, it's not overnight. It's been the last 21 years. Okay. So that's my whole background to give you an idea. So as you kind of have this idea of who Joe is now and what I've been able to do, now let's look at everything I had to overcome to actually get to where I am. Okay. If I get emotional here, I do apologize. I don't apologize, but if I get interrupted or something, it's because it's been very hard for me. In 2010, my junior year, I just remember getting such a bad fight with my parents. They had different restrictions on me that I didn't understand. I'm the oldest of six kids. We didn't have a lot of money. I had just spent the last 3 years trying to just make some kind of basketball team because my dream was to one day be in the NBA. And I literally was fighting for that dream until I just couldn't. I didn't have the resources these other kids did. I didn't have the AAU clubs. I didn't have any of that. I literally had my rusty basketball hoop and outside, even though it was Oregon and in the rain. Practiced every day, and I got cut. At the same time, my girlfriend at the time broke up with me. At the same time, I just never felt like I could do anything right at home with my parents. I would show up to school being like happy go lucky Joe as a facade. I was embarrassed that we didn't have a lot of money and I had to take, public transportation everywhere. And it wasn't like I was close. It was about 45 minutes to an hour just to get to school, 45 minutes an hour just to get home. And I see all my close friends, and it's not their fault. Like I'm not mad at them. But just at that time when I see them all driving their new Beamers and Mercedes and, the school had a lot of money. It was really embarrassing. And in 2010, I just remember I'm walking along the main road of our place, got in a really bad argument with my dad. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't think anyone would care if I just jumped out of a car right now. I don't think anyone would. Everything I'm doing, no one really cares. And then I get a special text from a very close friend randomly. It was God. But through my close friend, she said, Joe, I love you, and so many other people do. That's all she had to say. So I ended up not jumping out of a car that night. Okay. So that was in 2010. Went through a lot of healing with my parents, but it was still pretty bad to the point that I just wanted to move as far away as I could. Despite getting into that program that I went into, I traveled all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin from Portland, Oregon to get as far away as I could from just a lot of things. I'm going to share it throughout, right? That's for a different story. 2012, I'm never going to forget this. This was when I found out I was actually literally selected to work with the men's basketball team at Marquette, that one internship. Remember, 1,000 applicants, 14 a year make it to get selected for this internship. I was one of them. We're at this banquet. I get this call from my cousin. He's like, Joe, I don't know how to tell you this, but my mom overdosed on alcohol. This is like my second mom. My mom overdosed on alcohol, and our other aunt just jumped off a roof and killed herself. I remember being there. at this banquet. I'd stepped out or whatever. We're celebrating. Men's soccer just made it to the Sweet 16. That was my first internship, and everyone's having a good time, and I'm sitting there like, what just happened? We're all walking back from it too, and I'm just quiet. Everyone's celebrating. It was a good season. Everyone's excited for Christmas, and I'm sitting here like, okay, it sucks. And then, probably about a week later, get a call from my mom, and my grandpa was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. To be even crazier, go home for Christmas. I remember just going home. I can't even remember. Sometimes it's so unclear, but so at this point in time, just to speed this up here. So I'm involved in a network marketing business, and in that business you have coaches and mentors upline, right? Well, I had a phenomenal mentor. He's I'm always going to name his name's Darian. The conversations we would have, it just was like I saw him as an older brother, like father figure to me. He grew up in the south side of Chicago, saw a lot of stuff, played football at University of Wisconsin Madison. Just very, very just charismatic dude. He was like an older brother to me. And I get this call 2 weeks after I find out all this stuff about my grandpa and suicide, all this stuff. Joe, I don't know how to tell you this, but Darian's gone. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, dude, he like flew off his bike. He's gone. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, God? Are you serious right now? That was that was the one time where I was like, it felt like I wanted to blame God. I wanted to be, why is all this happening? Like all this good stuff, why? Why? Had it not been for a major business conference I had been at, right? When God places a big dream on your heart and you go for it, the devil is going to give you an equal and opposite resistance. And I knew then this is where I started to develop the system. The greater the victory, the greater the struggle. This is what I have to embrace. It sucked. I don't think I really absorbed everything that I went through in 2012 until I was about 26 or 27, because I was 19 at that time. I was 19. I didn't understand. What's even crazier is like growing up in, my parents did everything they could. We didn't have the biggest house, probably like a 1,500 square foot house or something. Forgive me, mom and dad, if you're listening. Maybe that's not the size, but it wasn't crazy big, like 3 bedrooms or whatever, 6 kids, right? But then my two cousins, whose mom just killed herself, didn't have anywhere to go. So then they were staying with us. So now all of a sudden, an 8-person house became a 10-person house. And coming home and just seeing everything on their eyes and everything else, it just broke my heart. They just lost their mom. Yes, I lost my aunt, but they lost their mom. And it was hard for a lot of us. I remember that. I remember that. I'm gonna fast forward, right? I don't want this to be like forever because there's a few more stories here. But 2014, there were some very wild. There were thoughts of suicide during this time. I'll share that kind of. I'll put that part of the like depression, despair episode. Um, but there were two specific cases while building this network marketing business where we had a couple instances that were very, very scary. One was during the summer, um, headed on a bus. I can't remember even where we were going, but literally sit in the back of the bus. And this is like late at night as we're on our way on like a Friday night after work or whatever. And the back of the bus caught fire and we can feel it. It's very hot. We see the flames and we're just like, oh my gosh, is this it? Like, is this, how are we like, okay, let's start moving up, get away from the back if this is about to blow up or whatever. Fortunately, it didn't. bus driver pulled over, but it was in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. We got escorted by cops to a random hotel in the middle of nowhere. That was a pretty scary experience because you're just like, oh man, like I'm paying the price. I'm paying the price for my dreams. Like this is just part of the story, and this is kind of what they'll start to teach you is like it's not what happens to you, it's actually who you become through it, right? During the winter, that was probably one of the scariest drives I've ever had, driving back from Indianapolis to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Normally about a 3.5 hour drive, took 11. Why? Major whiteout blizzards everywhere. We started driving back at probably like, maybe it wasn't 11 hours. It was a lot, maybe 9. But after looking at like my Fitbit I had at the time, like it literally said I had basically exercised that whole drive. Because imagine just driving in the middle of the night, not even being able to go 30 miles an hour. I have my girlfriend at the time next to me, and then I got a couple friends in the back. We're all driving back from this business conference, and there's semis blowing by us. You can't see anything because it's in the middle of nowhere. You're going 30 miles an hour on just absolute blizzard conditions, absolute whiteout conditions. I was the guy that missed my exit, going actually around downtown Chicago on 294, and instead went straight to downtown in the middle of all this stuff, and it felt like a scene out of a movie. Like we were the last car to go on this ramp before this semi got stuck and like literally was about to fall over and all these other cars. I couldn't even look back. I'm like, okay, God, thank you for protecting us there. All of a sudden we get onto one of the streets on 90 on Highway 94. There's cars spinning out to the right, almost hit my girlfriend at the time. One almost hit me, and I'm like, God, please, 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 please. And we're just in Chicago at this point. We're not even to our destination in Milwaukee. And I just remember like so many what it felt like near death experiences for about 9 hours. Um, I was looking forward to the day I'd tell that story because it still doesn't seem real today. 9 hours coming back in absolute blizzard whiteout conditions because I was just paying the price for my dream. That's what it was. That's how I saw it. I saw it as this is God making me stronger so that way I can pay that price. But at the end of 2014, my grandpa passes away. I remember telling you about 2012 is when he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He ended up making it through that, got a bunch of chemo, but it was only a matter of time I kind of felt before something might come back. And unfortunately, it did. And in 2014, I remember, and maybe I have the years off transparently, as just sometimes the stories just, I wish I had written it all down back then. But I just remember that summer actually. It was pretty wild where we go visit Hawaii. We already know this is probably the last time we're going to see our grandpa because he has, now bone cancer. It's metastasized to his head. He had the size of like a golf ball in his head, lost all his hair. And my grandpa kept our whole family together. Like he really did. And it was so hard to see someone with such a zest for life, charisma for people. And that's where part of me just feels like I have such a high calling because of a lot of stuff that's in me from him. And there's supposed to be two hurricanes that hit that same week that we were visiting my grandpa. Fortunately, both of them, well, one of them kind of hit. The other one I actually flew out right behind, which was pretty wild. But I just remember like we were bracing for the hit and we're staying in this like rental condo or whatever. And it's 2 in the morning and my family's kind of like either eating or playing games. And I'm up at 2 in the morning. My grandpa's about to pass away. There's a hurricane coming. And what am I doing? I'm actually building my dream on a conference call right at 2 in the morning for somewhere. I forget what it was. It was very late. It was very late, but I was just like, I have a dream. I have a dream, and I'm watching some kind of conference call to build my business. And I remember that. But then I remember the hardest part. I don't know if you've ever had to like say goodbye to someone you knew that was going to pass away very soon. I just remember hugging my grandpa for the last time and just being like, Joe, I love you so much. And I'm just like, I'm never going to see you again. I'm never going to see you. I cried in the airport. I cried on the flight home. I didn't even care there were hurricanes going on, if it was going to hit the plane or not. I didn't even care. I'm just like, it's the last time I'm going to see my grandpa. He ended up passing away that fall. I spoke at his funeral, couldn't keep it together because a couple days before his funeral was my birthday, and he would always give me a call on my birthday. It just wasn't the same. That was very hard. That was very hard. But I still didn't give up on everything that I was doing. I was still working. I absorbed it, but I had to perform. I had to keep going. Like I couldn't let it stop me. I couldn't do it because I literally sat there and I'm like, all right, now it's for him. Now everything I'm doing is for him. It just kept giving me another reason. Give me another reason. There's a reason why I'm facing all this now. Okay. There's a lot of other things that were happening at this time that I'll share in another episode, but this is just the death side of things. Okay. I'm going to fast forward to 2019. My girlfriend at the time and fiance at the time, we had not communicated with her family for 7 years because during about 20, I want to say 2013 to about 2020, they made up something in their mind that I was a bad influence, that I just wanted to use her to build my business, all this type of stuff. So it was basically she had to choose them or me. She chose me. And for 7 years, no holidays, nothing, no communication, nothing. We did not even communicate with her family, which led to a lot of arguments, which led to a lot of frustration, a lot of hurt, a lot of heartache. And there was one time we got in such a bad fight that I drove off. And this is one critical, I talked about in a previous episode, critical mistakes. This could have been one critical mistake that God saved me from. Never get in your car pissed off. Never. Never get in your car pissed off. Because there all of a sudden some kind of energy takes the wheel and it's not you. And I just remember going up this up ramp or whatever, and I got out of control, and it literally, like, I don't know how God, like, I thought my car was gonna flip over, and I thought that was it. And for some reason my car just stayed on the road. I'm freaking out. I'm hyperventilating. Felt like I almost just died. And I'm like, all right, God, I need help. And that actually started my journey of really seeking counseling and therapy and all the stuff from all the previous years. There's going to be a lot more that I share, but I hadn't really taken care of it because I just worked through it. And that's a big regret that I have. I didn't feel it, I didn't work through it. But you can do that and still work at the same time. I shoved it under the rug for a long time because I didn't want to show people weakness. And that's a mistake that I made. Fast forward to 24. This is just this past year. Actually, since this recording, this is just over a month ago. So to give you a visual, just to give you a visual real quick, I'm driving on a road I take every day to the gym. Here's the main road, right? And this is me right here. I take this every single day to the gym. So I'm not thinking anything of it. There's like a hill here, and there's cars coming this way, typically 40, 50 miles an hour. Now, I'm driving here really, really slow because it's starting to snow. It's kind of black ice, but I'm not thinking much of it because I'm used to driving in Wisconsin, whatever. Well, my car actually doesn't stop. And then all of a sudden I press the brakes and it's still not stopping. And then I'm starting to see these cars coming. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious right now? Like, stop, 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 car stop, car stop. I'm like holding the wheel. And then all of a sudden this car's like right here. And I'm like, are you kidding? And I'm like, I hold onto the wheel and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. And then the car stops about 5 feet from where I'm at. And I start crying. I pull over and I start driving. I catch up to this car at the stoplight right behind. And on the back of that car, it says, do you follow Jesus this closely? Can't even make this up. And that's when I knew I had to share this story. That's why I knew I had to share this podcast. That's when I knew that I had to write this book. That's when I knew everything that I've gone through over the last 13 years I needed to share. Because he's not done with me yet. And there are things that I can teach people to overcome the D's in life and not blame the God. All right. So here's that system. Okay. And I'm going to talk about this every single time when I go through a major D. Here's what you need to do. You need to feel what you feel. When the emotions come in, there's pain done into your life, something happened to you or whatever, like you need to feel it. This is the biggest regret I have in my early 20s is not actually taking time to feel the emotions. Write it out. Let God heal the rest. If you just feel like you're feeling, but you're just like, where the heck it still really hurts, pray into it. Now, you don't have to share my faith. Maybe it's something spiritual, maybe it's just some meditation, whatever. Have the universe heal you then. You need to do that, right? Step number 3. How can I use this as a story? How can I turn this into a story to like help other people? How can I turn it into a story that it's like, hey, this is God used me through this, or this happened to me and now this is my testimony, right? Because now the focus goes off you and woe is me and poor me and what I consider, quite frankly, the dumb victim mentality that I will never stand for, and I will help you guys overcome that, because there were times where I wanted to play victim. There are times where it was coming at me. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's the devil. He's going to try and put you in a victim mentality. But if you continue to sit there and be like, oh, woe is me, I can't do this and can't do that because this has happened to me, I encourage you, how can you use that story to serve other people? Because then you can also become an excuse eliminator. That's why I start this show. Too hard for the average Joe? Just write for me and the listeners of this show. I'm going to eliminate excuses for people, so they can see no matter what happens to you in life, you can be someone else's breakthrough and give them hope by you eliminating the excuses that they don't understand they can overcome because they have a limiting belief. And part of that's just because of what they see. They don't see anyone else that's overcome that. So by you actually taking your experiences, feeling it, but actually getting the wisdom and perspective to then use it as a story so that way other people can eliminate their own excuses, you develop a deeper purpose for your life. You develop a God-given purpose for your life. Because there are people out there that only your story can touch, that only your story can impact, and that only your story can give hope. And if you stay quiet and you don't overcome it yourself, and you just kind of like, sit in quiet desperation for your life and don't use that to go serve other people, you're never going to experience the true blessing that I believe that God has in the calling of your life. Because just through sharing this already, I'm hearing all these stories of people. I've had amazing conversations just a couple episodes in. Because we're at a spiritual war, my friends. This world, we're in a spiritual war right now. Whether you feel that or not, I pray that you find some way to overcome the demons in your life. But this is why I want to encourage you. This is the system that I have used. You're going to see it over the next 9-10 episodes. This is the system I have learned. It's not from any specific business coach, not from any specific counselor, but something that has helped me overcome it. And that's why I'm still able to perform at a high level despite what happens to me in the face of crazy adversity. So I know this was heavy. I pray that this impacts you. I pray that you can look at your life and look at areas of where things maybe I need to overcome. Do not feel that if you need therapy, if you need whatever, help, prayer, we're here for you. I'm not a therapist. I can refer you to different ones that I've worked with, right? But just know that despite what happens to you, God's using those experiences, using those stories to build you into something for a greater purpose that he has that you didn't even realize you might have yet. So I love you guys. I will see you on the next one. This is where winners learn to be great. Built for the cold, you say? That damn straight. The lessons, the love, the insights from above. Hope you take them and grow, even with another cup of Joe. Thank you for dropping in and listening to the show.